Hi, on this video we are going to discuss a little bit about how to write essays. We are going to have a bias by the structure perspective, in the sense that here we are mainly worried about how your essay should be organized, the structure of your essay. There is no general recipe, there is just some kind of tips, a kind of a device. So essay can be defined as a form of writing, set of sense that convey information, ideas similar. For example, when you write an email, that's a kind of essay, it's a small essay. When you write an answer to a website of a preference, such as a credit website, that's a kind of essay. So the idea of writing a good essay is not just about to get a grade in the school, it's also about to convey information in your life. So if you write well an essay, it doesn't matter if you are good, if you get a good grade on that. The important is that you know how to communicate well your ideas. And believe it or not, if you write well an essay, you also can speak and talk very well. So an essay basically are organized in paragraph. So what are some tips, some suggestions how to write well a paragraph? One is that you start with a general sentence, such as obesity is a very big problem all over the world. So you go and explain why that's a big problem. So that would be a good paragraph. So your paragraph should have the main sentence in the beginning. So that's not necessarily what should be done, but it's a good strategy. So in general, if you write the first sentence, it should be the core of the paragraph. Then you put another sentence, at which not so important, but important as well. And then I put another sentence. In general, you have one, two, or maybe three important sentences in each paragraph. So if you have too much important sentence, it means it's better if you break down your paragraph in one, in two, or three, or even more paragraph. So we should separate the main idea with explanation, such as if you have three main idea, three main paragraphs, three main sentences inside the same paragraph, you should separate them by explanation. So it means that rarely you are going to put like three, let's say, main sentences together. So in general, the essay are going to be organized in an introduction, in a core or development. I mean, you can find out a lot of names for that, but let's call it here core. The conclusion in general, it's so this is a kind of let's say a mandatory part of a good essay. The introduction is a kind of a guideline, in the sense that the core, the function of the core are going to explain the introduction. So you start with the introduction, like such as you want to talk about the let's say the poverty all over the world. So you can start with a kind of let's say a lot of points. So a good introduction should talk about everything, but with small details. So that is the function of the core. Start with something true, such as cite, I don't know, if you're talking about the development of science, maybe cite one sentence of Albert Einstein. Be careful, because if you cite directly, you have to put between two primes. If you make a kind of adaptation, so be sure that you let clear that your adaptation. Be sure to know your recipient. So let's say a good core, separate the idea in paragraph. So do not introduce something new that has not said in the introduction. It means that because in general, when people let's say read your essay, in general they're not going to be very patient. They're very busy. Everyone is very busy today, so you have always to remember that no one has time to keep reading stuff. So they're going to read your introduction and your conclusion. If they have some doubt, they go to the core. So the core is supposed to be a more or less like a kind of a development. Adapt a core to the purpose of your essay. So it means that you know why you're writing, to whom you are writing, and why you're writing. So are you writing to let's say to prove a point? Are you writing just to summarize a point? Are you writing to convince people about a certain idea? So be sure that you know what you're writing. So that can help us a lot to make a good essay. So the conclusion can be very tricky. I mean, in my opinion, depending on the condition. Some people like to put a kind of summary of the whole essay in the conclusion. Some people like to close the conclusion with a kind of point of view, like if you're talking about the problem. So in the introduction, you introduce the problem. Here you're talking about all the solutions possible for the problem, that such as like somebody else did this way, the other did that way, and then you give your own solution for the problem. So conclusion in general, they are like closing the idea. I mean, the way you do it has to do in such a way that it does not leave doubt about the essay. Neither it leaves like something to be said. So that's the conclusion has to be like closing, like ending up the history. Of course, if the problem is very difficult, you are not to give the solution, but at least you give a kind of probable solution. As one example of essay is the TOEFL IBT. The TOEFL IBT has four sections. The first one of the sections is writing, the other one is reading, the other one is listening, and the other one is listening, writing, speaking, and listening. So there are four sections. They are independent. In general, there are 4 hours, 1 hour for each section. You have a small break in the middle. I have taken the examination 5 times because this examination is mandatory if you want to study in Europe or in a kind of a USA university. It's a way to measure your ability to speak in English. So the essay part, in general, the last part, the essay part is divided into the called integrative part and the independent part. So this here is what they call independent part. In the independent part, they are going to give you half an hour to write about something. So they are going to give you a topic, and they are supposed to write about the topic in half an hour. In general, you not be able to. In general, they ask you to write about let's say 300 words. So 300 words will be more or less 1 page, not like half. Even be more like half page, depending on the size of the word that you are using. But but for half an hour in the situation of pressure, believe it's a lot. So in general, the topic that I'm going to find in the TOEFL IBT in the right independent section can be divided into agree and disagree, preference, imaginary, like imaginary situation, description. They have to describe a kind of idea, in comparison. So this two here is can divide this one, and this can buy this one. By the way, this organization here was not developed by me. It was developed by a professor called Rebecca, and I have used that in my TOEFL IBT. That's amazing. It works. So here, that for example, agreement is agree. It can be asked, for example, do you agree that the poverty of the world is a problem of the century? So you agree or not disagree. If you agree or not disagree, you have to leave it very clear. So see the introduction, you put let's say the very general idea about what's going on around the world. Let's say the first recording of poverty, and then here you try to give let's say one reason why you agree, another reason why you agree, and then have the conclusion, or maybe even disagree. Preference, like he asks you, do you prefer to study abroad or in your own country? So here you give a kind of introduction, then you leave it very clear, that you have your preference, then you give the reason one, and you give all the reasons to the conclusion. The conclusion you have to let it very clear. The comparison and contrast are going to be, let's say, for example, let's say, what is the advantage to live in Europe compared to USA? What is the advantage to live in Brazil compared to Germany? So somehow you have to compare. So you leave the introduction, then this one is a bit more trick than the other one. Then you put the body advantage, and your preference, and so on. See that's just a trick, but that trick can be even useful in your own life. So if you follow this trick here, believe me or not, this trick can help you even to write in a general essay. That's not necessary for the TOEFL, but that's not the only way.